Hi guys, and welcome to session 2 of Diffusion of Innovations. I actually have my monitor open right here where I'm looking. So I'm going to kind of talk you and walk you through the module. You can do the same if you like. Clicking on content and going to session 2. And you'll see we have 3 items, a checklist to kind of tell you what are those things you have to do if you want to look at it from the perspective of what hoops you want to jump through. The checklist is good for offering that perspective, so make sure you're using that. We've got a welcome page with the video that if you're watching it, then obviously you've been to that welcome page. I'm going to glance very quickly on that welcome page at the course plan, and I've got a copy of it here as well. So I do urge you to check that out at least once per session. It gives you a big picture view of what is due when. And I can see that here in session 2, we've got a 2-week session that ends on September 18th. And we're going to really kind of kick off questions related to what is diffusion and start examining some concepts in innovation theory. We've got the part 1 of the technology integration project is going to be due, and a quiz over some diffusion concepts. Speaking of that part 1, just a technical matter, the drop boxes as of the very beginning of the module do not exist yet. So I have not made that Dropbox. What I'm going to do after I post this video today is go in and make sure everybody's in a group and that the groups look okay, and then I'm going to do a bunch of typing on the wiki page in particular, and I'm going to go in and create, I'm going to create group discussion areas that are private to your group. I can see them, but nobody else in the class can see them, and you guys can use those. If you click on the discussion button in the class, you'll be able to access a discussion board that you guys can use. Something else that might be a good tool, so you'll want to start thinking about the kind of tools that can help keep your group connected and engaged with each other. You don't want weeks to go by where you're not talking. It's better to just kind of stay engaged, stay with it, get it finished, and then you can relax a little bit. Don't procrastinate as a group. That'll be tough on everybody if you do that. Okay, so that's the course plan. Just keep an eye on that. I really don't see our course plan in this class changing a lot. My poor web design students this semester, I just changed the course plan on them again on Sunday, or Monday morning. And I just kind of move some stuff around, but they definitely need to keep their eye on it because it is a Google Doc and it can change. And yours could change, but really I don't think it will because this class got Quality Matters certified this summer, and so I'm going to stick with this version of it this semester. I'm not going to make any big changes. All right, so moving on then to the last page of the module, the Session 2 Activities page. So here we have a number of readings. This Ellsworth book is a little bit on the old side. It's almost 20 years old. But a lot of diffusion theory is sort of classic. The ideas are classic. And so the Ellsworth book is a good way to not make you buy a textbook, but also a good way for you to read a really solid overview, because Ellsworth has a big picture view. He doesn't just see one great diffusion of innovation guru from the past. Like if you wanted to know who's like the greatest of the greats, you might say Rogers. But lots of people are in this business of talking about educational change and the kinds of leadership qualities that you have to have and the kinds of practices you have to have in strategic planning and all these kinds of things. There's lots of overlap in these different areas. There are a lot of people that have good things to say, valuable things to add to this field. So Ellsworth does a really good job of pulling together lots of different researchers and experts in the area of change theory. So anytime you see that Ellsworth book, just know he's going to give you a nice survey about whatever it is he's talking about. So I want you to read Chapter 2 on educational change models, Chapter 3 on the innovation, and Chapter 4 on the change environment. And then quickly glance at Eli's conditions of change. And these things will kind of help you start thinking about change theory, some of the vocabulary we use when we talk about change. And then one of the sort of granddaddies of diffusion theory is named Rogers. So rather than make you buy his book, which is about 2 inches or maybe 3 inches thick, and it's very anthropological in nature and technical, rather than make you buy that book, Dr. An, who designed much of this class, has created these summary notes. So that's what they're called in my class, these summary notes, like these PDFs. So anytime you see these summary notes, they're really from the Rogers book, and they contain a lot of the vocabulary that you're going to want to try to make your own this semester. Something to keep in mind, I know that students often try to get away with not reading. If they can get away with not reading and still do the assignment and still get the A, then they might take that risk and do that. And as a student, I've been known to not read everything that I'm supposed to, but I do urge you to read everything and as much as you can. And maybe if this motivates you, in your last part of the diffusion, the major project, the one that you're doing with your groups, you're going to create a plan of diffusion. So given your context and the innovation that you guys are picking here in the part 1 of the assignment, you guys are going to make a plan of how you're going to actually diffuse this into your particular setting. And so as part of that plan, you're going to be defending a lot of the choices you make in designing that plan. So how do you defend it? Well, you defend it by talking about what experts and expert practitioners and folks that you're reading from, whether it's Rogers from the summary notes, that counts as reading Rogers in this class, whether it's ideas from Eli. So Ellsworth is talking about Eli's conditions of change. Maybe you like the way that sounds. Maybe you're going to use some of those concepts in your final plan. But what you have to do is that's your chance to sort of show off what you know. So I view these readings as part of your toolkit, and not only do they help you in this class or with some project that you may forget about in 2 months, I think that these are really useful. This is a really useful toolkit you'll be building for your work in educational contexts, in K-12 schools, school libraries, at the district level, as an instructional designer in an organization, and I know some of you are in other fields as well. But I think that you will find this to be useful. And a lot of it has to do with education, but sometimes I actually just kind of step even further out and just go for leadership articles as well in the class. And remember, if you want to see the whole list of readings, you can go back to click content and kind of scroll down the list of all the session modules. And under the session 7, you'll see the all readings in the course link. And you go to that page, and they're sort of arranged a little bit more thematically and not so much in order. So these are pretty much all the readings that I think they're all there that you see in the course. Okay, I'm really rambling, but this is the first it's a big session. We're really starting something big here with diffusion theory and with your major project. Let me see how much time I've taken though. Okay, 8 minutes. Let's get this wrapped up. Okay, so do your readings, please. Check out these different plans, these different educational technology plans. See where our leaders are trying to take us, our Department of Education at the federal level and the state level. And then you have a quiz. Oh, and also ISTE's essential conditions. That's a super useful chart. If you click on that, it'll really give you, and if you're doing a project that's focused on K-12 or on an educational enterprise where you want to diffuse your innovation, the essential conditions are really useful for thinking about the types of things that you want to write about and look at and consider. Like when you go talk to people in your school, these are some of the areas you might actually want to ask about in relation to your innovation. All right, so make sure you take your quiz over concepts, and then let's talk about the technology integration project. As you can see, I give you lots of instructions, and I give you the instructions tech integration project Google Doc, which you've been seeing for 2 sessions already. That's here in addition to all this other stuff. And then I've got videos going over each section of the assignment. Just make sure whatever you do that you look at the Google Doc version of the instructions, It could be that there are a few words that are different in the video walkthroughs of the different parts, and you want to make sure you go by what's on that Google Doc and even my comments in the margin. Something that I added to the Google Doc that might be good for some of you is that I will allow you to use Google Docs, actually do your major project in a Google Doc. So it would become more of like an actual straight up paper. But I know at least one group is taking me up on that. So if you look on page 2 of the Tech Integration Project instructions, you'll see my very first comment in the margin, and there I talk about how you can use a Google Doc, but I kind of give you some instructions, and I also created a template with some sample text in it, some sample setup that you would delete. You would make a copy of that thing, and then you would delete anything particular to that example, and then plug your stuff in. But I want you to use the formatting that I have requested there, because I don't want a lot of creative formatting. It's enough just to grade your projects and try to understand what you're doing without reading your pink fonts or whatever creative thing you want to do. This class is actually not about learning a bunch of different technology tools. It is about thinking about change in schools or educational systems and even in other contexts. Okay, so you should have initiated your Wikispaces account. If you didn't, please go do that. A little more information on group wiki setup, and then surviving working groups. I've come up with some articles that may help you in participating in group work online. I know a lot of people think that online group work is like so much harder, but I do both with people I work with. So I work with people online and face-to-face, and I'm talking people that I don't ever see. Like I work with AECT with it's a national or an international organization, and I'm part of several committees, and we meet every month online and do stuff. We edit documents, and I mean I don't know half the people in there, and we work together and we send emails, and we do all this stuff. And so you want to get over the idea that just because it's online it's somehow so much harder. I actually find it's easier to work with some of the fellow faculty in the College of Ed online rather than meet at a conference table, because once you're online, like for example, we have to do an assessment report as a faculty for the instructional technology area. So there's about 5 or 6 of us faculty, and we have to generate multiple reports. We have to look at very detailed things on a computer, and it's actually easier for a whole group to look at the same thing on a computer when they're online than it really is sometimes in a conference room at a table, in my opinion. You can do so much. So, get over the idea that just because you're online doesn't mean you can't collaborate or get close or work well. You can do amazing things online, so we're going to practice that this semester. But you want to make sure that you guys maybe talk openly about norms for working together as a team. And I've created a guide, Hewitt's Planning Guide for Blissful Group Work. I don't know that it will work for you, but I think if everybody in your group reads it and maybe you talk about some of the questions that I bring up, it may be a better group experience. I didn't really ask my summer students what they thought about this, but I made it because I thought maybe it would help you guys get started. So anyway, that's session 2. I will have the Dropbox for part 1 up in the next, by the end of the first week of the session. You don't need the Dropbox yet. So I know some of you are ready to submit already here on the first day of the session, but you're just going to have to wait like 5 days or maybe a little less. All right, guys, I look forward to working with you this session, and please let me know how I can help.